Hi.
Well, just now. Hey folks, this is Waylon Lewis, and I am here with a special friend in my living room at Hotel Elephant, Seane Corn. Look at all that hair.
Hi, everybody. We're at Hotel Elephant. I'm happy to see, well, I see no one except for Waylon, but I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you're just tuning in, say where you're from, and if you have any questions for Sean about what we talk about, and Danielle or Taya or anyone who's watching from Elephant, please immediately share to all our pages so everyone can see on every page. And that'll get that number up if you want to give it a like or a funny emoticon face or a share. That'll help this video get beyond the choir to many, many, many thousands of people. Mary, Telluride, welcome. Ashraf, welcome. And if you're here, please give it a like or a love, funny emoticon, or share it, and it'll get way beyond the choir, which is kind of the point. Alrighty, Seane Corn. So where are we? We're in Boulder, Colorado.
Well, I'm at Elephant Hotel.
Yeah.
I am in Waylon's house right now, in his fabulous house, which I love because it's really thoughtful and it's all eco, and Waylon has taken me around and shown me all the little elements and all the things that he's done and where he's found things, and I love that. I'm building a house myself one of these days, and so I'm always looking for ideas and inspiration. So that's where I am, and I'm in Boulder at the Hanuman Festival.
So Hanuman, we did a video yesterday, you can see on youtube.com/elephantjournal, is this big yoga festival, and they do kirtan, like singing, devotional, sort of spiritual singing, and what else do they do? Parties?
Yoga.
Well, lots of yoga. It's a yoga festival. That's the whole thing. So, yeah, Taya, I wanted you to put in all the videos individually, or Kat, whoever's on. So if you can just put in the individual videos. So I've done a ton of videos with Sean over the years. It's been a great elephriend. Here's why I admire and feature you so often is you care about the planet. Mm-hmm. You don't just care about yourself, even though you're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm taking in the praise.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So just to get a little bit serious, like we have many good mutual friends who are doing good things for the planet. This world needs some help, maybe. Mm-hmm. And it's a wonderful world at the same time. We can be optimistic, although it's hard sometimes. What is what's the game plan? How can we help you, and how can you help us? How can we help this planet?
Well, my hope always is that people take responsibility and accountability for their actions and be willing to live more mindfully and sustainably. My interest in the environment it's personal to me because I grew up in northern New Jersey in Pompton Lakes, and to make a long story short, there was a factory called DuPont that was built in my town back in 1902. It was an ammunition factory, so for years there was a brook that ran from DuPont into the main lake called Acid Brook, which is what we called it as kids.
Wow.
And not understanding the irony, but it always ran purple, and we would take a stick and kind of push the purple away and then go into the water.
What year was this?
Oh, this is when I was a kid, so it would be in the 70s.
Right.
So
the EPA was just getting started.
Well, it was during the late 70s that they then declared the water polluted in my town. Mm. But you could water ski. You couldn't swim, but you can water ski. And you could fish. And they would stock the lake every year with trout and catfish. Wow. And all the other neighboring towns would come, including Patterson, and that's where they would get the food for their week, for their families.
Wow.
And I guess it was probably in the 80s when I would notice that in my town, young people would die of diseases of leukemia, or parents were dying younger, and I thought it was like that everywhere. It wasn't until I think 1993 that the first of the class action lawsuits against DuPont happened, and Aaron Brockovich came into our town and recognized that there's an area called the Plume, and that was so highly contaminated, both from the earth, of course, was contaminated, the water's contaminated, but anyone who lived on the lake, and the town is surrounded by lakes, 4 of them, that the vapors from the contamination going from the soil through the earth into the basements, that you were getting these invisible gases. And so there's an accelerated rate of kidney cancer and breast cancer in my town above, from the whole United States. Wow. I can't remember the percentages, but it's very high. And my dad died of kidney cancer. Oh. And when my dad died, when my dad was sick and the hospital was telling us that they gave us they told us that the cancer was genetic. And I said, I get that. But could it also be for the fact that we live on a lake? My father's been inhaling.
Right, on acid.
Yeah, and they said it wasn't environmental, that it was genetic. And when they gave me the diet to give my father, it was horrifying. It was just filled with sugar and acid and highly processed. And it was, and I wouldn't give that to a healthy person, let alone a sick person. And it was so disempowering. The experience I had with the doctor was disempowering. I watched people that I love and have known for years and years get sick, die. And of course, DuPont lost the lawsuits and have been doing what they can to clean the lake. But still, that was my experience. And so growing up in that environment, it made me more sensitive.
Right.
Knowing that I'm also susceptible, like we all are, I've just made a commitment for myself that I don't want to contribute anymore, to the best of my ability, to our planet being unwell. And that if I want this planet to be sustainable, it's going to be dependent upon my actions. And so I think that was my original inspiration.
So one thing specifically there is obviously Scott Pruitt, President Trump's appointment to the EPA is having the size, cutting the EPA in half. And they're trying to remove all those regulations and go back to like pre-1970 when Richard Nixon, a conservative, created the EPA. So it's not really a partisan thing necessarily. We all want to be healthy and not die of cancer if we can help it. So, also societally in terms of a lot of equal rights or civil rights issues, you're involved in a lot of that. So how can we kind of all get together and galvanize this movement?
You have to want to. Yeah. Like you really have to. It can't just be rhetoric. It's discipline every single day, just making choices that might be inconvenient, that might not be comfortable, that might not make you popular. My commitment to animal rights and to veganism is also because I'm an environmental activist. I can't justify eating meat knowing the impact that it has on our environment, the impact that it has on our air quality, and on and on. So to me, it's inconvenient for some. It's hard to, hang out socially sometimes because of my diet. And yet I have made that commitment, because I believe in animal rights, but also because if I am an environmental activist, I have to really look at my habits, my own laziness, and make changes. And it's difficult. I mean, just today, I was thirsty for water. Someone handed me a plastic water bottle. And I needed the water, so I took the bottle. And that's always really challenging to me. And yet, I'm grateful for the convenience. I'm grateful to have access to the water. And I now feel like obligated somewhere. I have to balance it out.
Well, and we've done a lot of articles on this. Obviously, most bottled water is less clean than most tap water, and most tap water, again, is barely regulated enough by the EPA, as we know from Flint, Michigan, and many, many other towns in the U.S. have awful water. So if you think their water is awful, think about how it's unregulated in plastic bottles. So and plastic is made of petroleum and chemicals to make it flexible. Plastic is naturally really hard and brittle, so they have to add lots of toxic stuff.
And it just leaches into the water itself, especially when you keep it in your car and it gets hot, then cold, hot, then cold. It just continues, the plastic leaches into the water. And
so I already asked Taya, Danielle, if you can put the individual videos for Seane Corn in the comments. Would have been great to have that happen already. I'm helpless here. I can't do it because I'm talking with Seane. So if you can get those videos in there, that would be awesome. Anyone, if you have questions, comments, or if you just want to do a funny emoticon face, that'll help it get beyond the choir.
I can't see anything, so I can't read the comments.
Yeah, okay. So people giving you shout-outs for veganism.
Yay.
Claudine had some kind words. Margot, lots of sweet. You guys keep me going. I look forward to you every day. Hello from Burlington.
Hey, Burlington.
Folsom, California. Boulder Creek, California. Sophie Miller at Hanuman just tuned in. Anyway, lots of comments. Telluride. Hoping to get those videos. Taya, third time. Let's get those videos in.
Taya, you're going to get in a lot of trouble. You got to get it together.
Well, Taya's new, so she can't get in too much trouble. So how do you mentioned the plastic water bottle. Part of what people miss with environmentalism is a sense of transparency, like none of us are perfect, have a sense of humor about it, do your best, do better next time. So I love that you have a bottle. And you also fly a ton. How do you, because you're a world famous teacher, how do you deal with the carbon footprint of that?
It's hard. I mean, again, it's like I struggle with this all the time. I fly an extraordinary amount.
Right.
And then, you know, at home, my home's completely off the grid.
Right.
You know, I run on solar. And
are you talking about the yurt?
No, my house.
Oh, okay.
The house that I live in. And I try to offset it in other kinds of ways. And not nearly enough, though. Like, I know that there's a whole other thing that I should be thinking about. But then I think, you know, for me to be able to do the work that I do in the world and to be of service in these ways requires me to be able to get from point A to point B. And I'm really grateful that I have access.
It's magical flying around. One thing I talk about a lot is like a karma offset. So even if it's not planting trees, you're doing a lot of donations, a lot of good work. Like, what are some of the causes that you're involved in? Maybe give them a shout out.
Oh, well, my God. I mean, actually, over the years with Off the Mat, I mean, we raised a ton of money and our...
Off the Mat into the world.
And we were given an award by Global Green for our sustainable efforts because a lot of the projects that we've done overseas, like planting 1,000 trees in Haiti and building a sustainable bakery out of a shipping container in South Africa, and really looking at that. That's one of my favorite projects because the bread was highly caloric. So it fed the children in the orphanage. The people who bought the bread, the money then went to the people in the hospice. So it worked in every way. It was a sustainable project, and those are the things that I love when it has that kind of continuity.
So you can offset your flying or whatever by doing, or anyone out there, like the to be an environmentalist isn't to be liberal necessarily. It's not to be a hippie and wearing Birkenstocks necessarily. You can just do good work in the world and kind of hopefully achieve a little harmonious balance.
Or my hope is, you know, I often hear that statement about creating a better world for your children.
Right.
I always think in my mind, let's raise better children for our world.
Right.
And if that's what we can accomplish as parents, as mentors, as big brothers and sisters, to take the time to educate our children and to model back to them mindfulness and sustainability, then I think that that's the best thing that we can do to try to create some balance, because we already have such bad habits, lazy habits, entitled habits, based on our own upbringing and our own socialization. It's hard to break those habits, but if we can help to instill some of these new habits in our children and make it common sense, where they composting, recycling, they wouldn't think twice.
Right.
You know, and I know that that's possible in the same way I don't know about throughout the world, but I know in California there's a certain I remember saying years and years ago, when my stepson was a little boy, there was a kid in his school that was apparently, I don't know, they were like 8 years old, 9 years old, but this kid was gay. And Clyde mentioned it to me casually, like, oh yeah, you know, so-and-so is gay. And I first said, oh my God, do they beat him up? And he looked at me and said, why would they beat him up?
Aww.
And it occurred to me, my experience growing up in New Jersey back in the 70s, you know, if there was an 8-year-old kid who was out, he wouldn't have made it through the day.
Right.
But that's because that was my experience, my socialization. I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to tell him.
Right.
Like, if
let him just think it's normal, which it is.
If this has been normalized in their school, valued and supported,
love that,
and this is their experience, I'm not going to be the one to say, hey, did you know? Never. And I feel the same way about other levels of consciousness, maybe perhaps in recycling and veganism and all of that, that if we educate our children, then perhaps there is a chance for this planet.
Love that. So that's something so many environmentalist friends of mine say, oh, we're not sure if we're going to have kids. We don't want to have kids because, you know, human beings are awful for the planet. And to me, that's like such an unenvironmental, such an unmindful attitude. Accepting that humans are bad for the planet is like giving up. You know, raising a good kid can create an engine of goodness, a ripple effect every day of their lives. And from a Buddhist point of view, if you have the ability to be a good parent, is a wonderful privilege to be able to do so and help create this wonderful person, or, you know, be a step parent or adopt, or there's obviously nothing wrong with not having a kid at all. But if you want to have a kid, it can be environmental. It can be a force for good.
I didn't want children. I got 3 of them, but I didn't want them at all. But it wasn't because of the environment.
Be careful of what you don't wish for.
I just didn't knew that wasn't for me, wasn't my path. obviously Spirit had a different, a different understanding of that. But I really do believe once that was put into once that became my responsibility, then I realized that as a mentor, as a step parent, then I had a responsibility to model. I couldn't tell them what they should do, and then they're seeing me and my partner do something different.
Right.
It had to become part of the habit within the family.
What's important either way is like that old quote from the Native Americans about the 7 generations. You think forward, including this generation. What can we do now for the next, in every action? And that's why plastic is so bad. It's a single use. You use it one time for 20 minutes or something, and then it lasts forever. And as it degrades over forever, and it never really goes away, it is toxic. Everything it does, the fish, us eating the fish, you know all that. Yeah. I
hope you all know it. I'm sure a lot of people who are listening do know this. But it's just little baby steps every single day of the little things, and it becomes habitual. And it really does. For me, it makes me feel like I'm contributing in a way. I know that there's never enough that I can do. Even if I wasn't flying all the time, there's just every day that I wake up and breathe, I'm already taking from the planet. But what can I do to try to give back? It's just something that stays in my mind. Can I contribute a little less to the devastation of our planet than most? Can I be that much more conscious? And that, I really feel like it feeds upon itself.
Right. But there's also an enriching, you also add a lot to the planet. Like, I interviewed Joel Salatin, who's the star of I interviewed Michael Pollan, but Michael Pollan, the author. And Joel Salatin talks about how he rotates. He's not vegan by any means, but he rotates. He does the small farm mindful thing. He rotates all the chickens, and the chickens eat the pig poop or whatever it is like, and the earth becomes richer and richer for it.
Yeah,
so and we as human beings can, I think, view ourselves as we have a responsibility, like noblesse oblige, to, if we have any kind of privilege, to give back. And we all have different areas of lacking privilege and maybe some privilege, even if it's only good health or something. Anyway.
Absolutely.
So I don't know, there's so much we could talk about in our 2 minutes. Maybe just to touch on yoga. Are you ever bored of teaching yoga, or is it all, because you do it all year, flying around, being fabulous. Do you ever get bored of that, or how does it continue to fulfill you?
I never get bored teaching yoga. I struggle every day like everyone else getting on the mat, because I practice alone. I don't practice in, I don't have the energy of a group or a teacher facilitating.
With a little mic here.
I'm just on my mat, and, a part of my brain looking for 1,000 reasons why yoga is not a practical thing for me to do in that moment. And so
that's good to hear.
And I've been practicing, since I was 19 years old, and
for 5-6 years then.
For 6 years. Okay. For what would that be now? 31 years. 31 years. And is that right? And I'm still amazed that I still try to talk myself out of practicing.
Wow.
When I've never, at the end of a class, thought, you know what, I shouldn't have done that today. That just didn't work for me. I always feel amazing. I always feel better. But there's still that voice in my head that tries to sabotage the experience. And so I can get bored in my practice. The way I don't get bored in my practice is because I introduce so much prayer and ritual to it that it feels like an act of service to me. Like I wake up, I watch the news or read the news, and I find out what's going on in the world. And usually there's a crisis. It takes me all of 10 minutes to find whatever the crisis is. Then I get on my mat, put my palms together, and from that point forward, I dedicate every movement and every breath to whatever that circumstance is, or to whoever that person was, and try to let my body reflect that prayer. So whether I have 15 minutes to practice or 2 hours, there's an intention that drives the practice, and it becomes more devotional. And it also keeps me present, because if I fall out of a pose, I don't want to swear. I don't want to make it about something other than what it is. So it feels like I'm contributing to something. And when I'm teaching, I have issues always of injustice. It's something since I was young, and I get enraged around injustice. And I couldn't have found myself in a better position, that I get to use my platform and my authority to raise awareness and to try to build a grassroots movement of change makers and inspire them to want to make a difference, to end the injustice that I find so intolerable. And so I don't get bored teaching, because I walk into a room and I think, not everyone here is going to want to change the world, but there's someone. And I'm going to speak to that someone. And that someone is going to make a difference. And then I feel in my heart that I've done what I'm in my purpose. So as a teacher, I'm very well aware I'm in my purpose. So I don't get bored. I get burnt out. I can get a little overwhelmed. I'm pretty fearless in expressing how I feel, whether it's politically or environmentally or animal rights. And I take some hits with that. I'm not always flawless with it. I'm not always skilled. But I always take risks. And that keeps me on my toes and keeps me inspired when I step into a yoga room.
Hey, come on in. We're just finishing up an interview. Sorry. It's just body work.
Oh.
So I got super injured. You know about that.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So two things there. The intention. How can everyone out here have that moment of intention and dedicating our like in Buddhism, we'll dedicate our every action to the benefit of all. And even if you forget about it, it sort of underlies everything you do. How can everyone out here do that?
I always start personal. Like if I'm if I'm not feeling the connection to what's happening in the world because I'm in my stuff, I will dedicate a series of movements to someone that I love. And I'll really take a moment to think about their contribution to my life.
Yes.
To someone I love, someone who needs healing.
Right.
If they're dealing with PTSD.
Come on in. It's okay.
A physical illness, something like that, loss, grief. To someone I need to forgive. The hardest prayer ever. To bring them into the space and just acknowledge them, give them back to God. And then when I feel more connected, when you feel more connected, go a little bit more broad. And maybe right now I'm doing a lot. This is the hardest prayer. I'm doing a lot of praying for the leadership in our country.
Yeah.
Because I realize that so much of my rhetoric is negative when it comes to our leadership.
And that just creates more war on some level.
I just know it's the hypocrisy. I'm meeting hate with hate. I'm meeting fear with fear. And it goes against...
Martin Luther King said, we've tried hate. I'm going to go with love. Love is the only thing that could ever defeat hate.
It doesn't mean we don't act. It doesn't mean we don't find our voice.
But love is active, not passive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to find out what I'm for, not what I'm against. And I have found myself being really negative. I mean, downright using words just like I hate. And
you didn't vote for Trump?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
surprising.
To me, if I'm not praying for Trump, then I'm part of the problem. And so I struggle with this. So I am a massage therapist.
Yeah. You're good.
So I get on the mat, put my palms together, and I send him and his family prayers. My prayer is, of course, for their safety, for their happiness, and that they wake up and put humanity before economy and put love above everything else.
Well, like last week, President Trump went back on his campaign promise to evict all the Dreamer children.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that was a wonderful decision of forgiveness, of some kind of empathy. Who knows how it'll go. He's still not doing that for the parents or anything. But, I shared that news up and I said, fantastic. If you get, it's nice to encourage little moments of not being horrible.
Yes, I agree. I mean, again, right away, I think there's a motive. Like, I have to check in with that part of myself.
And there may be, and there's nothing wrong with, I was thinking about that today, the balance between being, because I don't consider myself an optimist. I am forward-looking, and I have energy for the future, which is sort of optimistic, but I love looking at the hard truth, and I feel like so many of us like to avoid that. Oh, climate change, let's just go get ice cream and forget about it. And that doesn't result in a better world. So I think just being balanced, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comments. We're probably out of time, but
what are they
thank
saying?
you, everyone.
I don't know what they're saying.
Dara is just saying, daily I try to reduce the amount of unnecessary packaging, buying locally, recycle whatever I can, repurpose what I have, and donate so that others may benefit from what I no longer need. That's beautiful. You should write an article about that. Tristan, thank you, Sean. I really enjoy all the segments you do. It's really helpful to me.
No, thank you.
We put Taya, great job, put a bunch of videos in the comments so you can watch all of Sean's videos.
Thank God, Taya.
Two of my favorite ones, great job, Taya. Two of my favorite ones are the one we did in Topanga.
At my yurt.
At your yurt.
Yeah, check out my yurt.
On love and career. I really recommend, particularly if you're a young woman and you need a mentor from afar, watch that. And then the other one was...
my life story.
Oh, your life story.
Yeah,
right.
That's kind of interesting if you're curious about me doing yoga back in the 80s, Life Cafe, Sharon and David,
East Village.
Shivamuti. Yeah, if you're interested in the whole East Village experience, that it's kind of
yeah, she is
kind of
not
a
the
story.
cliche of like pastel happy yoga teacher. Her background was like pretty feisty, so check it out. And then the other, do you mind, just so people know that this isn't just happy yoga talk, what are some of the accomplishments of Off the Mat into the world? And then how can people get involved?
Off the Mat, we've raised over $4 million. We've done sustainable projects in 8 countries, 23 projects.
And some of those are working with young women or who are like living off of trash heaps or
it's from
prostitution, like pretty intense.
Sex trafficking. We do a lot of work around sex trafficking and advocacy work. It's really across the board, just in terms of we look environmentally, we look in terms of education, what's going on politically, whatever the crisis is in the different culture, and then we align ourselves with organizations that are already doing great work. Now, though, we're really interested in doing what I'm calling learning and listening tours. Like, for example, I really started to second guess raising money and going into other cultures without having a certain amount of cultural humility.
Sure.
And so
listening.
So we do learning and listening tours. Last year was Cuba. This year we're going actually to South Dakota because I wanted to keep it more local. We're working with the Lakota Indians who are running the tour. They're all Standing Rock activists, and they're going to teach us about the genocide and about the history and the future of the Native American people and the impact that the genocide has had on their culture, their traditions, myths, arts, etc.
Wow.
And so we're not raising any money. We're supporting them, of course. We're paying them to do this, but we're going there to learn and process and do yoga. And I want to do Israel and learn about go there to learn about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So that's hopefully our next learning and listening tour.
To Israel.
In the future.
Nice.
And what we're really focusing
on... So just little problems. Israeli-Palestinian conflict, genocide of Native Americans, sex trafficking.
We need to be in these conversations. Yeah. So we can't bypass. I mean, to me, we are the ones who can actually make a difference and through consciousness, but we have to be willing to.
We have an opportunity.
But we have to understand racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, bias, prejudice, ableism, on and on and on. Yeah. The ways in which we've benefited from it, been complicit to it, participated in it, and not go into denial. Go into these uncomfortable conversations because we can't change that which we won't see. So I'm interested now in raising more awareness. Right. So Off the Mat has a lot of trainings around called Beyond Duality, where we learn about these subjects. And we're doing something called Leaders as Bridges, where we're going to go into the red and purple states and work with yoga teachers who are dealing with people in the room where the energy is very polarized, and helping them to support them, on how to take a stand mindfully, yet at the same time try to also understand the trauma that happens in this polarization, and how to facilitate and hold space for the complexities of what's happening in our nation right now. Yeah. So go to offthematintotheworld.org and see our facilitators. We've got great trainers, and you can do it online. We have justice pricing to make it accessible, and we have in-person trainings as well.
Thanks for making it all happen. Get involved. If you hear this, offthematintotheworld.org. Put it in the comments. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Anna was asking, and you just answered it.
Get in the picture.
How to? I know I couldn't really because the light gets so bright. See, and then yours get dark.
Yeah.
See?
All right.
That's not so bad. Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you. Enjoy your massage.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And please do check out Seane Corn's other videos. Get involved and help out and do some listening. All right. Thank you, Sean.